Welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast with your hosts, Jason Mefford and Kathy Gruber. Fire and Earth, giving you the keys to unlock your limitless potential.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. I am your co-host, Kathy Gruber.
And I'm Jason Mefford, and today we're moving a little slow, and I don't know why.
People are going to think people are going to think they're like CD player stopped or something. Of course, no one has a CD player anymore, so.
No, what happened to all those? Anyway, but today we want to talk about something that is slow, right? So I was talking slow there for a while. And, you know, the fact that change just happens to be slow sometimes. Or is it really slow? Right. So that's what as we were talking about before we hit record, we were talking about this. Is change slow? Really? Or is it not? And I think we'll see that maybe it's both. But Kathy, what do you think? You brought it up, right? That a lot of times change is slow.
Throw this back on me.
Oh, well, you know.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, I'm just gonna say that. So I think we as humans get very impatient that things don't change quicker. What do you mean I can't lose, 10 pounds in 2 days for the wedding I'm going to? Other than lopping off a hand or a limb, you're probably not going to get to do that. So I think we get very impatient because our conscious minds just, we want it to happen right now. So in that way, for our perception, I think change is really slow. And to your point, as we were talking before we got on the air, sometimes change is faster than we think, right? We see ourselves every moment of the day. And how many times have we bumped into someone we haven't seen in a while and we're like, oh my God, you lost so much weight? Because we can tell if you see them day by day, you don't notice the little increments. If you see them once every 6 weeks, you go, wow, you're completely different. And this is one of the things I make sure I reflect and radiate back to my coaching clients is how far I have seen them come, because we don't often recognize that. And I remember so clearly, I had a client come to me, this massage client. She was in horrible pain. She couldn't even make it through Trader Joe's. It would take her about an hour because she'd have to stop and lean on the cart like every 5 minutes and just wait for the pain in her back to subside before she could go half an aisle, and then she'd have to stop and wait. And so I started working on her, and she was also doing like stretching at home and all this kind of stuff. And she shows up one day for a massage and she says, Kathy, I'm so frustrated. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, honey, what are you frustrated about? And she said, I was playing horse with my son in the driveway and I could only play for 15 minutes before I had to stop. And I just started laughing.
Yeah.
And she said, why are you laughing? And I said, honey, you couldn't walk 5 minutes in Trader Joe's and you're now outside with your son playing basketball for 15 minutes. And she goes, oh my God, I didn't even realize that, right? Because she had forgotten how far she came. This is why we have that pain scale, right? Because we start to, if we mark this stuff as we go, this is why I keep at least mental charts for my clients. I can then remind you, look where you were, look where you are. So yes, it is slow and fast.
Yeah, because I think too, it's, I've noticed this a lot with weight as well, right? Because I was at least 50 pounds heavier than I am now. I don't even know how much I weigh because I haven't weighed myself on a scale in a long time. And, in the work from home and especially the post-pandemic stuff, right? We all wear stretchy pants like Nacho Libre, right? Chacho, when you were a man, you would wear stretchy pants, right? So a lot of elasticated waists, right? Which are often forgiving as well. And like I said, I mean, people will mention to me, over the course of time that I'd lost weight. But again, to me, normally I don't see it. And I wouldn't see it even from the elasticated waistband until I go and try to put on like regular pants.
Right.
And I had to go buy like new jeans because it was like these things are falling down. And even when I put my belt on, it's like I bend over and they're like sagging down, that a lot of times. And so I think it's like we said, sometimes our impatience, we get frustrated and think that things aren't happening. But they're probably happening faster than you realize. And but it's almost like you have to take the pause, right?
Yeah.
I know, like on Facebook and just different socials, you'll do like a daily pause kind
Mhm.
of a theme. And until we take the time to actually pause or kind of do some kind of a comparison, right? Like try to put
Mhm.
on a regular pair of pants and see if you can still button them or if they're falling off.
Mhm.
Until you do kind of that pause, it's hard to tell for sure.
Yeah.
Because we're with ourselves every day, and so little changes every day we don't notice.
Yep. Yeah. And just since we started this podcast 5 minutes ago, we're different. Cells have changed, things have shed, things have rejuvenated and regenerated, and we are constantly different. And just like you don't necessarily notice, hey, I'm a day older, but I do know that I don't look the same as I did when I was 5. So if you look at, I'm a little bigger and hopefully a little more well-spoken, but it's hard to say.
Yeah.
But if you look at this all on a continuum, how quickly have we changed? Um, Time is also such a human construct. I don't understand linear time. So I think that's the other thing. Time is tricky when we're talking about change. Um, we hope it goes faster. And then other things we don't want to change. So we hope it goes slower. It's like we can't wait for the Disneyland trip to get there when we're a kid, but we don't want school to start again. So it's like, it's so subjective too. Whereas I couldn't wait for school to start because I was bored during the summer as an only child. So, it's perception and it's time and it's such an individual thing.
Well, and it's interesting too, right? Because I mean, yeah, as a kid, those things, right? Disneyland versus school. But I think too, as having been, I guess I still am a parent, right? But all my kids are adults, so I'm technically still a parent, but I'm not parenting kids anymore. If that makes any sense, right? But as a parent, there are some rough times, right? I mean, when you're raising kids, I mean, they call them the terrible twos for a reason because sometimes it's like you can't reason with the kid, but they're kind of like coming into their own and the
Mhm.
tantrums and everything else, right? And so when we're going through things like that, a lot of times people are like, oh, I just can't wait until I get through this, right? And as I've gotten older and talked to other friends too, I mean, how much of the time we wish away time that we then regret later,
Yeah.
right? And instead of just enjoying the time that we happen to have and enjoying and playing the game,
Yeah.
right? And not beating yourself up, because again, if you're working on and you're wanting change in your life, but if you're hard on yourself about the change or what you believe is the lack of change
Mhm.
that's going on in your life, you're kind of self-sabotaging some of your change,
Right.
right?
And I'm laughing because you're talking about parenting and I'm shaking my head as if I have any idea what you're talking about.
Hey, you've had animals, it's the same thing,
Yeah, they don't
right?
really go through the terrible twos. Like I don't have to ground we do have to ground the cat because he can be a jerk sometimes, but um it's like I don't know what it's like to I actually don't even know that I can imagine what it's like to parent, frankly. We say, oh, I can imagine what that's like. I don't know that I can. But anyway,
Yeah.
I appreciate and honor the fact that you parented children because that's no, I really do, because it's like it's not a path that I picked. But no, exactly. It's like there are so many times where it's like I'm just wasting time, or it's like, why would you waste time? Time is so precious. And it's so funny because we're talking about change and how we wish we changed quicker, but yet we are so resistant to change, right? We get really stubborn with it. This is the way we've always done it. And I have an entire talk on overcoming resistance to change. And I look at the 7 reasons why we are so resistant. So there's that flip side of that coin too, which is we really want certain things to change and other things we want to stay the same like forever. So humans are so complicated.
Well, yeah, because there's that old thing, the only constant in life is change, right? That like you said, when we hit record a few minutes ago, we were different people
Hmm.
than we are now. And it's funny because one of my spiritual teachers, he he kind of jokes with this, and he'll say things like, well, every day is my birthday. And we're like, no, your birthday's on this day. And then it's like, no, every day is your birthday, right?
Mm.
Because as you lay down, the you of yesterday
Mm.
no longer exists when you wake up,
Mhm.
right? And so if you have that kind of frame of reference, then really every day you're being born new,
Mhm.
right? You are changing, you are a different person um, than you were the day before,
Yeah.
molecularly, right? Because of what we ate and how our body happens to change,
Yep.
emotionally, based on what we might be going through and whether we've let certain things go or not, right? But I think too, it's, you know, as far as the belief of change is a slow process, I see a lot of people who take longer to change than is necessary because they
Mm.
think it has to be hard. They think it has to be painful,
Yeah.
right? And so I will tell you, I haven't really done much different to lose all this weight that I've done. Yeah, I ran for a little bit. I haven't
Right. I
really
remember that.
exercised for a while, but I
Mm.
continue to lose weight and get healthier, right? Um, and so I guess where I'm going from it is, how many times have you said to yourself, or have you heard other people kind of say, oh, well, it's going to take a long time to get through this,
Yeah.
right? Well, how long do you want it to take? How long are you
Mhm.
going to let it take?
Mhm.
Because some change can actually happen very quickly
Yep.
if we're not limiting ourselves into believing it has to take a long time, right?
That it has to be hard.
If you believe it has to
Mhm.
be hard, if you believe it has to take a long time, then guess what? You're right. It's going to be hard and it's going to take a long time.
Yep.
But what if instead you could flip it around and say, you know what? Change is easy for me. I
Yep.
quickly move through. Come up with
Mhm.
whatever the right mantras or sayings, would be for you. And like a simple one that I'm sure has something to do with my weight loss is a simple thing that I say to myself usually a few times a day, which is my body processes what it needs
Mhm.
and flushes the rest, right? So
Yep.
I mean, again, I'm for the most part, I'm eating healthier, smaller portion sizes, but I also don't worry about if I eat some Oreo cookies, because either, it's like I have this desire to eat Oreo cookies, so maybe there's some reason that my body needs something that's in it.
Hydrogenated corn oil
Yeah,
and
and
chocolate
sugar, chocolate, and
and
whatever.
whatever is in
But
that.
but I
Yeah.
also but I also know my body's going to flush out what it doesn't need, and that residual is not going to stay.
Yeah.
Right.
And you probably had 3 or 4 and not an entire case of, or
Sleeve or
an
yeah,
entire sleeve of Oreos. And that's, our body listens to what we're saying to it.
yeah.
It's completely off topic of what we're talking about. But when you say something like, oh, stone's going to go straight to my ass, your body goes, oh, all right. And it's going to listen to that. Right. So it's like, we program our reality. And if we say change is easy for me, blah, blah, whatever it is, then our bodies, because our brain doesn't understand the difference between what we're thinking about and imagining and what's actually happening. This is how affirmations work and visualization. So saying something like change comes easily to me, I love that. That might be my daily pause today.
There you go. Yeah, no, because I've really started doing that, because especially as I've gone through a lot of change
Mm-hmm.
in the last year of my life, I continue to remind myself of that, and I'm amazed at how easy
Yeah.
some of the things actually are. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, boom, all of a sudden you're through it. You're like, what? I mean, most people would spend 6 months,
Right.
you know, grieving about it, doing something about this, and it's like, no, I process change quickly. So
Yeah. I love that. I love that. All right. So we just covered a lot of stuff on change.
I
Sometimes it's
know.
slow and sometimes it's hard. It doesn't have to be as hard as we make it sometimes. And there is a process to it though. And I think we do have to be patient with the process. I think we do have to take the steps and not try to jump to the end result, because that can be a sabotaging thing. So
Well, and just kind of like we've talked about in other episodes too, right? There's work that has to be done. If you want the change, sometimes there are these little things that actually have to be done, little things you have to do every day in order to get the kind of change that you want at the end of the day. So.
Absolutely. A great place to end. All right. I am Kathy Groover. I can be reached at kathygruver.com.
And I'm Jason Mefford. I can be reached at jasonmefford.com. So go out and have a great week. We'll see you on the next episode. See ya.
See ya.